Welcome to the Mindset School podcast. My name is Inga Pakalnishkita. I'm a life coach, neuroscience geek, and entrepreneur. In each week, I will bring an inspiring topic, easy to use tools to help you become the best version of yourself so you can create the life that is beyond your wildest dreams. Let's get started. Silje Lovise Gjertsen is a Psych-K facilitator, pause place practitioner, and a soul guide. Through a unique blend of guided self-exploration, Psych-K, and human design, she creates a space to connect with your inner wisdom, discover your own magic, and transform subconscious programming and beliefs. She's also a talented photographic artist holding multiple awards for her work. In today's episode, we chat about her story and how she got to where she is today, how discovering that she is a highly sensitive person has empowered Silje to create a life on her own terms and launch the inner landscape. How to connect with your inner wisdom to become the truest version of yourself. We dwell deeper into connection with nature, meditation with treasures, moon ceremonies, human design, and so much more. Before we begin, I wanted to share a free audio guide I created for you. If lately you've been feeling stuck, unmotivated, and have low energy, this audio guide, How to Get Unstuck, will give you 3 simple strategies to generate clarity, regain direction, and feel energized. Simply visit ingapakalnishkita.com or click the link in the show notes. All right, let's jump straight into the episode. Silje, thank you so much for joining me in today's episode.
Thank you so much for having me, Inga. It's really nice to be here.
I wanted to give an overview of how we met. And as every guest on my podcast, I'm connected through different events in my life. And same with you, Silje. We met at the Psych-K Basic Workshop in London over a year ago now. And through that year, we kept in contact and we were messaging one another occasionally. And then I think in the recent couple of months, we really started talking more and learn about what we do. And that's how we came about this podcast, because we had a conversation over WhatsApp, just how things are going. And then just this idea as well landed onto me that, this is so interesting what you have created, and I want to learn more, and I want to share that with the podcast listeners. So here we are today. Silje, can you tell us a little bit more about you? What is your story and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, so I'm born in Norway, Bergen, in a big family. I'm the youngest of 4 siblings. And yeah, I've had a really beautiful life. A big part of it has been growing up or spending a lot of time at our cabin by the sea, which really is a big part of who I am and my connection to that land. And I guess one of the things that has really fueled where I am today has been my connection to my inner landscape and the kind of time that I spent. It's just the kind of my default mode is to explore my inner landscape and daydream, and also to connect with the land. So that was a big part of my younger years. And then from I was around 12, things started to become a bit more difficult at home. My mother was chronically ill, and her situation started to become a bit worse. Some really hard years followed on from that, with illness and also death in my family, losing my grandmother, who I was very close to, and also my grandfather later. So it kind of, the years that followed were quite hard in some ways, but I was very And kind of what I can look back and see now is that what developed was a pattern where I very much kept how I was feeling to myself. I didn't reach out for help or anything because I could see that there was so much going on, and I guess I didn't want to be a burden. I really kind of kept to myself, but I was very, like, I went to school, I got good grades, I did all my duties, and I didn't tell anyone how I was doing. And during this time, I also really followed my creative calling. So I was working towards studying fashion design, and in 2009 I got into London College of Fashion. So I moved to London. When I was halfway through my year at Women's Wear, my BA there, I got this calling to study photography instead, and a very kind of clear, almost like you have to study photography. And I've been working so hard towards fashion design. It was a shock to everyone around me, but that was the first moment I kind of really clearly remember that I listened, I trusted my instinct in like a split second. I just knew, okay, I'll follow that. So I shifted direction, and all the kind of clothes and creations that I've made over many years within fashion design were very creative and very in a different way than the people around me. I was kind of processing my inner landscape and kind of the difficult things that I had been through what I was making, through these clothes, and started diving into my photographic art practice. I found my right vessel to really explore what I'm here to explore in this life. And my art really saved me, I can say, in terms of dealing with the difficult times in my life, and kind of really with curiosity and exploration, really kind of diving into the pain and the darkness and exploring it and kind of turning it into something beautiful or interesting. Or that's been a huge part of my journey. And then I finished my MA at the Royal College of Art in 2015. And halfway through, or after my first year there, I lost my father to cancer. So my whole MA degree work was really exploring this loss and this pain. And I wrote my whole MA dissertation around, well, I had already started writing a dissertation about loss. And then my father died when I was in the middle of writing it. So it became this exploration of writing about and exploring death and loss whilst I suddenly lost, or like was in,
while you had to grieve for your own father.
Yes. So it was like the most unimaginable loss. And then, so it was like a very, very strange time. And what followed, the years that followed after my MA were, well, I guess the first year was like, because I worked really hard in my second year, and then I finished and I allowed myself to collapse, I guess, in grief. But also it was the first time, because I was studying from 2009 until 2015. So I had to then enter work life to pay for my studio and my home. Now, I'd been working before in summer jobs, which I really struggled with in terms of my energy. But after finishing my MA, I really realized that, okay, this is not working. Like, something's wrong here. Like, I'm not able to function the way that I see people around me function.
And what was happening for you at the time? How did you recognize that it's hard for me to function like what I see other people do? What was happening for you then?
Well, I was just so exhausted all the time. So when I did have some years before I moved to London where I was working, and I was just jumping from job to job because I was just too tired, too exhausted. And I just thought something was wrong with me. Like, I literally thought that something was very, very wrong with me. And my like the thing that I said to everyone and to myself was that I'm a non-functioning human being.
Oh, okay.
The mantra, that was the word I was looking for. That was what I was saying. And that was what I knew I was well functioning in terms of my creativity and in terms of that part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came to like being a functioning human being in society and everyday life, I literally thought that there was something very, very wrong with me.
So in
And
terms of your energy levels, is that what you
yeah,
mean?
energy levels, as well as being like, I would just feel so overwhelmed by
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of scenarios. I would go into uni, for example, and you have a clear idea of all the things that I should be doing or could be doing and wanted to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could go into the dark room, I could go to the library, like that. But I would come and I would feel so confused and overwhelmed that I would just sit down on the bench and have no idea what I could be doing. And then I just went home and went to bed because and it was kind of only when I had a deadline coming up or something, and I really threw myself into the creative bubble,
Mm-hmm.
that I was really able to do things. But kind of when I was stuck in like everyday life, I was completely lost. And I didn't know what it was. I
Mm-hmm.
just thought something was just very, very wrong with me. And the years that followed in London was just this frustration of not being able to live life in any way or form the way that I knew that I was capable of. And like I was doing great things with my work, but I like when I was alone, I was feeling anxious. I wasn't like able to meet the day because
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of knew that I wasn't gonna be able to function the way I thought I needed to. So I had many different jobs that I tried doing, always kind of met like the exhaustion point where I was just like, okay, and I kind of just had to quit, and then I would do it all over again, kind of thing. And then something changed in 2017. My friend gave me this book for Christmas. Maybe it was end of 2016, about highly sensitive people.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I think you should read this.
Mm-hmm.
And it completely changed my whole life, because it was the first time I had no idea that there was a thing that was called being a highly sensitive person. I knew I was sensitive,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't know that in fact 15 to 20% of the population are highly sensitive, and that 15 to 20% of the population experience sounds, light, smells, different types of stimuli up to 3 to 5 times more than people who are not highly sensitive. And I grew up in a family with very energetic people.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the only one who was highly sensitive. But like no one in my family never kind of gave me a hard time, or other than the fact that I was very bad at waking up. There was a bit of hassle around that.
Yeah.
But other than that, they were really good. They never kind of, but I guess it was just what I saw around me, and also
Mm-hmm.
in society, it was just not how
How you were designed to function. And
yeah.
especially I can imagine in London, life is hectic.
Oh, yes. Yes.
It's crazy for any human being living here without a break is terrible. It's great. You have to leave London to appreciate London. But I think for you, it must have been a really, really, really tough. And I think what you were talking about, that knowing that you want to do things, knowing that you can do things, because you were saying you're a really good student, always achieved things that you wanted to achieve, good grades, and then going into jobs and just like finding yourself that you're physically exhausted and overwhelmed with things that are going on around you, and then learning that you can identify yourself with other people who experience the same things, and then actually there are about 15 to 20% of population who are highly sensitive people. So you
Yeah.
mentioned a couple of things that what highly sensitive people experience. So there is a heightened sensitivity to smell, to light, to sound. What else would you say highly sensitive people experience, or how they are differently designed?
Literally their brain operates in a very different way. So the way they take in their environment is very different. And they're very sensitive to all the subtle things that are kind of in between that, because everyone is sensitive to some degree, but they are highly sensitive. They even take in other people's emotions, even if it's not spoken. They take in the energy of other people a lot. And there are different, like, you can be a very highly sensitive person, or you can be, there is like a scale.
Mm-hmm.
Even like the way that they can receive, what other people say to you, if it's in an argument, for example, or like just everything that is around you in terms of the actual like smell, light, sounds, but also kind of the emotional landscape. And so if you can imagine going through life and, like you say, for example, living in London and taking in everything 3 to 5 times more, then you're gonna be exhausted. And
Yeah.
especially like when you don't know about it, and on top of it think that how you're responding to and how you're feeling is wrong and not natural,
Mm-hmm.
then it's not easy. And like a lot of people who are highly sensitive, or most people who are highly sensitive, unless they grow up lucky enough that their parents know about it and it's talked about, and that's why it's so important to talk about it, because 20% of the population are a lot of people, but it's not enough for it to be something that's commonly talked about. But if you haven't grown up kind of aware of being highly sensitive, then most people will at some point hit the wall, and in many cases, unfortunately, kind of fall outside of working life. And there's a Norwegian psychologist who's done a lot of research around highly sensitive people and people with ME, so the chronic fatigue syndrome, and has seen a huge link between people with chronic fatigue syndrome and highly sensitive people. And that it started out as being highly sensitive and then ignoring the signs and the signals from the body. And the whole system is just so not helpful, because the whole society is built up for people with a lot of energy, and there's really not a lot of space for highly sensitive people. That's why it's so important to talk about it.
Yeah. So how learning that you can now put a label on what you were experiencing, how did that change your life?
Oh, massively. It kind of gave me a permission, or first of all, it told me that it's okay. Like, there's other people like you, and it's normal. And even like, it's even a good thing. There are like amazing things about being highly sensitive. So firstly, it was just a huge relief to understand that, wow, like the way I am isn't wrong. And it's even like a good thing if I just learn how to utilize it. And from that moment, actually, I completely shifted the way that I treated myself, because before I found out about this, I was quite mean to myself in terms of not in terms of my creativity and all of that. I've really like always really believed in myself and what I can do. But when it came to how I was and like what we were talking about in terms of how I functioned in everyday life, I was really hard on myself. And like every time I couldn't wake up, I would beat myself up for it and really put myself down. So after finding out about it, I really started practicing radical self-kindness and allowing myself rest, which was huge. And like to actually rest when I needed to, and to understand that, okay, like I can structure my day the way that it works for me. And I don't have to be the way that society tells me to be. Self-kindness has literally changed my life. And I just started, every time I wasn't, hadn't reached my to-do list, or maybe I didn't make it into studio that day, or whatever it was, I was just kind to myself. It's okay, you can do it tomorrow. It's a new day tomorrow. But it was a long journey as well, because I had to start building life in a way that it worked for me, which, was a whole mountain to climb. But it really started with the self-kindness.
And What would you say are the superpowers of being a highly sensitive person?
First of all, I would say the sensitivity
Mm.
is a superpower. And it is also the thing that many people maybe think is the bad thing about
Mm-hmm.
being highly sensitive, but it really isn't. When you're highly sensitive, everyone is sensitive,
Mm-hmm.
but with highly sensitive people, you really notice the kind of smaller, subtle details in life. So, like, nature will be very vivid, and you notice all those little, quite naturally, you notice all those very little
Mm.
details and all the scents. And, if you listen to music or artwork, like, things are very alive. Highly sensitive people have really rich inner lives. So they're often creatives, artists, therapists. So a lot of kind of the creative work that we have in our world,
Mm-hmm.
cinema, music, poetry, artwork, all those things, chances are that have been created by a highly sensitive person.
And what would you say are the superpowers? How being a highly sensitive person really helped you to do what you do in your photographic work and in what you do now?
Highly sensitive people are also very intuitive and sensitive to other people. So they're kind of the typical person that will, in the office or in the friend group, that can pick up how other people are feeling without needing to
Mm.
hear the words, if that makes sense. And they help other people process their emotions. And they really help to build up the people around them because they can see them so clearly and deeply. They kind of can support them in a different way and encourage them. And they see the larger picture often, so they can kind of help you see connections that you maybe haven't seen before, which I guess is really kind of what I do with my work today. Highly sensitive people are so needed in the world
Mm.
today because we need to kind of infuse the world with that sensitivity. It's so, so important, and connecting to kind of that more feminine aspect of us. And when I say feminine, I don't mean the gender, but that
Mm-hmm.
kind of more intuitive way of being, more sensitive, nurturing way of being. So it really, if we could welcome that way of being, and all highly sensitive people need is a little bit understanding both for themselves, but
Mm-hmm.
also in their own environment and the people that surround them. And to have more highly sensitive people, workplaces, and even in leadership roles, like, they can provide really compassionate and sensitive leadership.
Mm. Yeah, I agree with you. And you mentioned earlier as well that once you learned that there is an explanation why you were feeling quite exhausted, and now that you can put a label on it, then you had to figure out, well, how do I build a life around it? Tell us more a little bit about that mountain hill that you had to climb and figure out, how do I build the life that now suits what I'm designed for? So how do I build the world around me instead of running my life the way the world is designed? Tell us more a little bit about that.
I guess it started with just acknowledging that, okay, if I'm going to live a life where I am happy and healthy and functioning, because I really wasn't functioning before, and doing the things that I want to do, like, I have a lot of things I want to put into the world and share with the world. So I kind of came to the point where I realized, okay, this is not working,
Mm-hmm.
and I need to do something else. And I kind of tried to go the support route in terms of talking to my GP to see if there was any temporary support. And I kind of met the wall there of, like, well, being a highly sensitive person is not a diagnosis,
Mm.
and I kind of realized, like, okay, if I follow the kind of Western or the medical route,
Mm-hmm.
what's going to happen is that I'm going to have to go in a job. I'm going to have to get so sick that I can't work.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have to be on sick leave, and then I have to do it all again enough times for them to see that, oh, she actually can't. And I realized, like, I don't want to do that. First of all, I don't want to make myself sick. And second of all, I can I can do this on my own. I have so much to give. I have so much to offer. And at that point, the inner landscape wasn't on the horizon yet. So it was really kind of only my artwork. And I thought I was going to pursue teaching and things like that as a supplementary income. Yeah, so it really started with like, okay, just deciding like, okay, I'm going to do this in my own way. We moved to Norway, first of all, because I realized that I just can't be in London anymore. And I was lucky enough then to get a little break where I was able to have a time where I could observe what my natural kind of balanced daily routine looked like. Even because I had never gotten to know that, because I always thought that the way I was wrong. So I wasn't even giving myself permission to be in my natural flow. So the first step was just to observe, like, what does my flow look like? How does even like my day or my week or my month kind of work for me? Observing that was kind of the first step, and the self-kindness was huge, and rest, allowing myself guilt-free rest. And with that, everything started flowing in terms of my path forward. This was in 2018, I guess, because I still kind of thought I was going to pursue the teaching kind of bit, and I was working as a photography technician at the Art University in Bergen on a paternity cover, and I was working full-time for a period like 3 months or something. And I thought, well, this is a job I enjoy. I have lots of free time. I'm not free time, but I'm the only one there, so I can control my day kind of thing. And I was absolutely shattered and exhausted, even if I was enjoying it. And it took me like 1 month at least to recover in the summer. Like, I was completely exhausted. And then I realized that, okay, even doing something that I enjoy makes me tired. And then something kind of quite unexpected started happening, where this little voice in the back of my, not mind, but in my soul, was whispering to me that you need to work with people. And I was just like, oh, what is this? And it became louder and louder very quickly. And to the point where it was this like roaring fire inside of me, like, because with the discovery of highly sensitive people, I always also discovered human design, and I guess I started my like awakening, if you want to call it that. So I was already then at least a year or 1.5 years into seeing life. Well, I'd always been very kind of spiritual without knowing it, and very kind of connected to my inner wisdom. And I guess through my artwork, I'd been exploring all of those things, but I didn't quite know about this whole world out in the world that was actually talking about these things in a very like concrete way. It had all just happened in my own space and through my own artwork. And so this roaring fire inside of me was just suddenly telling me that I needed to work with people. It was very unexpected, and I didn't really even know like what do you mean? Like, but I knew by then enough to know that like, okay, I need to trust this instinct, but I didn't know how or what to do with it. And that's where Pause Place came into my life. And I'd been like sitting with this fire for a few months, and suddenly I found Pause Place and Katie Abbott, who is
and before we jump into that, I just wanted to learn about this intuition that you have received, or it's like this inner wisdom, because you mentioned earlier when you were called to study photography, that feeling was really loud and really strong. And here we go again. You experienced that, and you're describing this as a really strong fire. So tell me more about that.
So I would say that for me, how I would interpret that was that my soul was speaking to me and calling for my attention. And I really believe that we come into this world with kind of like a soul mission.
Mm-hmm.
And we come with every single ingredient of our greatness, and everything we need to know we already have within us. Of course, there is like things to learn and
Mm-hmm.
explore and all those things, but the kind of the important things you already have within you.
Mm-hmm.
And if we kind of divert from that path, you know, and most people do, because society and your environment, you know, put things on you in terms of how we should live, or you might have parents who want you to do a certain thing, and
Mm-hmm.
it could be anything, right? And if we do kind of get off our path and get a bit lost, our soul will start calling us.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been quite lucky in the way that I've always been very connected to my inner landscape. So I've always been very, very connected to my path, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I never kind of strayed very far from it.
Mm-hmm.
But also when I kind of did go stray away from it a little bit, I always listened when it called.
Mm-hmm.
But also in terms of human design, I'm a splenic projector, and so
Mm-hmm.
my authority is splenic, which means my instinct. So my natural way of being and making decisions is by following my instincts. So it does come very natural to me.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I've struggled with following my instinct when it came to the smaller things, because of my highly sensitive nature, I get easily overwhelmed and confused, especially when I'm around others. So that's where it's been hard for me to follow my instinct and intuition in terms of smaller details, like should I go on that camping trip, or what should I eat, or what do I want to, like if people ask me something, I wouldn't be able to hear my intuition because I was overwhelmed.
But when it's really important,
yes,
it's really loud.
Very loud and very clear, and it's like a lightning bolt striking me.
So was that because you mentioned, you described it as your soul was speaking to you, was that a voice? Was that a feeling that you were drawn to? Was that a push? Because many people, they describe the intuition very differently. So what was that for you?
It comes in different ways. You have to study photography. That was like a voice. And also in terms of this fire, it was saying you have to work with people, but it kind of comes as like my own thoughts in a way. Like it sounds like I'm thinking it, but it's not coming from me. It's coming from outside of me in a way. And then, so for me, the instinct and intuition is two different things. So the instinct is like, it's very quick and passing, and it kind of like flies past you in an instant. And you either like, you have to kind of be aware enough to catch it. And if you don't, then it kind of can be gone until it comes back. But the intuition is for me like something that's more like present within you. And it could, sometimes it's a feeling, sometimes it can show itself through dreams, or something that you're feeling pulled towards, so something that lights you up. I think it's different for everyone,
in different
and it
forms.
shows itself differently for me. So it's a whole practice, kind of learning how to listen to your intuition and instinct.
And then you got into the pause place?
Pause place, yeah. Katie Abbott, she's an incredible person, and she runs this 6-month practitioner training all about working with the human and soul journey. So it's a small practitioner training. We were 20 women. It's not just for women, but we happened to just be women that year, which was so special. And we were together 6 weekends over 6 months together in person in London. And then the rest was done online. And it really was, and I guess I was drawn to it because, I mean, this came out of the blue for me to work with people, although it does make a lot of sense in some ways, because throughout my life, I would always get so excited talking to people about their ambitions and their potential, and like really believing in people to the point where I get so excited that I'm just like in fire, like, oh my God, like really, like, you have to do this. I just really I get so absorbed in people's greatness, and I just want to lift them up into so it makes a lot of sense. I just couldn't see it, or I guess I just never even thought that was a thing. So yeah, pause plays, it's beautiful training that really, and very different to any other like coaching training, because the whole point of it is to allow you to find, how do you want to work with people? So each one of us kind of came out of that with a completely different path, if that makes sense. And it's more about learning how to hold a safe space for individuals and groups, and to explore our human journey with everything that entails, but also the soul journey. So that's kind of how it all started. And then I found Psych-K, which I kind of started at the same time, and that also came in, and I didn't even know much about it, and I just knew, okay, I have to do this. And I literally booked on like the basic and advanced straight away without having to think really. And so it kind of just all happened, and I can't even believe that it's only a bit and a year ago since I started the post place journey, and because it just seems like a different life almost.
So you've been on this really incredible journey of connecting with your inner wisdom and creating the life on your own terms. What are the 3 things you would say to someone who finds that they are highly sensitive? They think they might be. What can they do today to create the life that works for them?
Well, firstly, what I would like to say to anyone listening who think they might be highly sensitive is that you're not alone, and that there is nothing wrong with you. Absolutely nothing. And that your sensitivity is a strength, and it's beautiful, and it's really needed in the world. And any advice I would give in terms of starting to embracing this and building a life on your own terms would be to really start listening to your inner wisdom and to what your body is telling you, and to give yourself time to rest when you need to without guilt, and to find your own rhythm, and to kind of figure out, like, really get to know yourself, and like the good and the bad, not the bad, but like kind of the whole spectrum of how you respond to your environment. Really get to know it without judgment, with acceptance, but observing, like, okay, how do I function? And then try to figure out, kind of like I did, figure out what your ideal structure and daily routine or balance looks like. And a good way to do that would be to allow yourself some time alone, some days, or something like a little bit of space where you can just observe yourself and figure out how that looks for you. And then I would say to really create a life that works for you, like figure out, like, what do you really want to do, and to kind of allow yourself to plant the seed that, okay, I can actually create a life on my terms. Like, I don't have to follow the way that society kind of tells us that, oh, this is the way to go. And to really connect with what you want to share. And, that might be working in a kind of, in quotes, like normal job, and that's okay. But then to figure out, like, maybe have conversations with your boss or your colleagues and share that you are highly sensitive, and that it could be supportive to, maybe have more time to rest, or whatever it might be. Because the thing is that I find that when I work, because I work very slowly, I'm quite like my life happens at a very snail pace, but I am so much more productive when I allow myself to work in my own rhythm and to rest when I need to. Like, I am double the amount of productive than when I'm kind of trying to be productive, if that makes sense. So to really kind of get to know that, and also to show yourself so much kindness when you don't get a lot done, for example, or if you've pushed yourself too hard, if you've kind of said yes to too many things, or if you're feeling overwhelmed, like really allow yourself kindness. And I would also say to talk to the people around you about what it means to be highly sensitive. And I would really recommend anyone to read the books by Elaine Aron. We can maybe put it in the show notes, but to read her book about highly sensitive people is a huge thing. And I would also suggest anyone in your life who are close to you, a partner or parents, or if you have highly sensitive children, to read that book, because even for anyone really, because there's so many highly sensitive people around, that it's just really good to know, and to create more space for or create a society that includes everyone and that can support everyone.
So we talked about the calling that you have received to work with people, and how you got into the pause place and then went into studying Psych-K, and that's where we met at the workshop. And tell us more about how you got to create and launch the Inner Landscape.
The Inner Landscape really came to me kind of from outside of me in a way. And I knew I wanted to work with people, but I still didn't really know exactly what that would be until kind of half a year before, or the Inner Landscape came to me kind of half a year before I started Pause Place and all of that. And it really came back to, I think, me as a soul and how I've been since I was born. And that is exploring my inner landscape. And it was this like aha moment of like, of course, it can't be anything else. That's what I do with my art practice. It's exploring my inner landscape, the kind of the dark, shadowy bits, the trauma, the pain, the loss, the shame, the shadow, all those things, as well as the kind of the light areas, the creativity, the imagination, the dreams, all of that. It's a whole landscape that encompasses all of that, which makes us as human beings. And so that's kind of really where it was born, as well as my connection with the land is also huge in there, and as well as with my artwork. I sat with it for a really long time before I put it out there, because I wanted to really allow it to be fueled completely by my heart, soul, and intuition. So I made the decision very early on that everything that I do with this work is going to happen straight from my heart. It's not going to happen from my mind, if that makes sense. Like it's not going to be a product of me trying to figure out what to do or how to best do it or how it will be successful or anything like that. It's going to be a response to my intuition and to my soul calling. So everything that I'm doing and putting out, it really is a product of that. So I guess I just really followed what was lighting me up and what was really calling me, and trusting my instinct 100%. And that's been laying the foundation of the work that I do.
With the Inner Landscape, you provide a unique blend of guided self-exploration, Psych-K, human design. What inspired you to create that unique blend?
Yeah, it's like I said, the reason those things came together was just me following my instinct and what felt or what kind of almost like had to happen. So Pause Place provided the foundation in terms of holding a safe space and really honoring the soul and the human journey, and practicing unconditional love in the space that I hold for people, and a deep listening. And the Psych-K provides an incredible tool to very gently but effectively remove trauma, stress, limiting beliefs, and programming from your systems. Because one of the things, because of everything that I've gone through, and I really believe that there is a reason why I kind of never received support or help when I did, the few times I did kind of ask for it in terms of at school and things like that. And I really believe that I had to go through it on my own so that I would learn a lot of things. Like thinking back to, when I was quite young, I really sat with the darkness. And it was painful, like it was very painful, but it was also like cloaked in curiosity and creativity. And I never feared the darkness. And for me, going into this inner landscape and into the dark areas is so important, because if we don't do that, we can't fully reach our potential, because we're human beings, and we have experiences, and we have traumas, big or small, that puts layers of conditioning onto us, and they will create a separate, or like a wall between our truest selves or potential. And if we don't dare to go into those dark areas, then we're not going to be able to let the light in and kind of reach our fullest potential. So Psych-K is just the most beautiful tool I have ever come across to remove quite even very heavy trauma very quickly and gently. And it really is the biggest gift that I have come across in that way, and the way that it's able to remove limiting beliefs and societal programming, and kind of rewire the neural pathways in the brain to actually integrate beliefs that are aligned with our highest purpose and supports us rather than holds us away from what we're trying to call in. It's quite incredible, really. And the human design, again, it's been such I discovered human design right after I discovered I was a highly sensitive person. And in human design, I'm a projector, which basically is the same as being a highly sensitive person. And I was just like, whoa, 20% of the population. I recommend everyone to kind of look at what human design is. But basically what it does is it shows you how you can best utilize your energy. And there are 5 different designs, and there are, a million other things, but it really shows you how you can best use your energy, and also how you should best make decisions. Like for me, it's with my instinct. For some, it's their gut. Some is like really getting to know their emotional wave. It basically just shows you what you kind of naturally came into the world being, that maybe societal programming kind of pulled you away from, but it leads you back, and it gives you permission to really listen to yourself, and like, okay, what is my way of doing things? How do I want to be in this world? And not even want to, like, how am I in this world? How is my energy? How do I respond to people? So it's like a blend of all of these 3, which I kind of mainly use Psych-K for now, at least. I do use human design, but that's more if people are especially interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing that I want with my work is to help guide people into their inner landscape, to first of all release any luggage that they've been carrying probably for a really long time, that they don't need to carry for any longer than necessary, to release anything that's kind of holding them down, keeping them away from the lives that they actually want to be living, but also to find their own magic, and to tap into their potential that everyone has within them. That's the work that I'm really, really excited about. It's like getting the stuff that's not serving us away, so that we can like really get to work and share our unique gifts with the world that is so desperately needed. Like we need a world where more people are sharing, or everyone are sharing their magic and their unique point of view. Like no one can do what you do, you know, no one.
Exactly.
Only you can do it.
Every single person on this planet is so unique, and that's why we're all different, because we come into this world to live the life on our own terms, the way we are uniquely designed. And what you said earlier, that it's really important to drop all of that luggage, all of that away, so we can really create the life that we truly want, that and that truly works for us. Because what works for me might not work for you, and that's always your truth. There is no one path that will work for everybody, and that's what we need to do. This is our responsibility as a human beings, to find what that path is. And I believe that there are so many different ways as well how to discover that. And for work that you do, and either through coaching, there are different ways how to discover that. And what you do is truly amazing. And I want to dive a little bit deeper into meditations with treasures. This is something that you have recently launched on your Instagram account, and I was absolutely in love with that. I have a really deep connection with nature. I grew up in Lithuania on a farm. My dad worked in forestry, so I've been always picking up blueberries and just admiring the nature. And that's what I've been able to do through your meditations with treasures, where I was like really getting back into that feeling, that deep appreciation of that beauty and little simple things that just make our world so amazing. So tell us more, what has inspired you to create meditations with treasures?
Well, first of all, I'm so happy to hear that you've been enjoying the meditations with treasures. It really kind of almost made me giggle a little bit, because meditations with treasures is really like the expression of my soul. And more than being inspired to do it, it's more like a result of me sharing how I see the world. And meditating with treasures is something that I've done my whole life without knowing it. I didn't know that. And kind of, if I think about meditation in a more like traditional sense, then meditating with the land, be it a piece of it as a treasure, or an object, natural object, or like being in the land, is really my truest sense of meditation. And it really is the work that I do as a photographic artist and I work with completely analog, with a large format camera, like the old school one you go under the cloak and look through the glass. So it's a very slow way of photographing. And so that's kind of what I explore within my work. So it kind of happened after lockdown, or I had the idea for quite a while, and I kind of, lockdown kind of inspired me to finally release it. But it always felt a bit like, ooh, like, should I share that? That's like my playful kind of truest, I just get lost in the wonder. So it really is, I guess I just realized, like, and I was being called by my intuition to just share everything. So that's what I did. And I created Meditations with Treasures, which is a combination of connecting with your inner wisdom and your intuition and connecting with the land. So I was even called to share, my singing. And so it really was a place where it all came together. And it's a place to receive the wisdom from the land and to connect with natural wonders, natural treasures. And I mean, I've collected stones and shells and fossils and all kinds of things throughout my whole life and my whole home. And my partner's a sculptor, and he's also been collecting since he was a child. And so our whole home is kind of this like sacred space full of these treasures. And I guess I just felt like I need to share this. And it's all about creating a sacred space and a sacred time to spend with one object and really see it and really spend time with it and kind of move beyond like what you know, any labels that you've kind of learned as a child, and really experiencing it, the energy of it, the pattern of it, the color of it. And chances are it's going to tell you some things.
It did. It definitely did for me when I did that. And I was like, and you know what's so interesting? Why I loved it so much? It's not only that it allowed me to connect with nature, but it really made me stop and be in the present moment and be curious and actually see those little things that I wouldn't be able to see it if I was just looking for 3 seconds and putting away. And, you know, and the message that I received was life is much more beautiful when you look up close.
Oh, I love
And
that.
that was really amazing. And that's totally true. When you stop and when you look around, life is more beautiful. And, you know, that is truly amazing. And I was just like, okay, that's just perfection for me. I can get to connect with nature. I can get to stop, appreciate the little things, and just calm down as well. So it's really, really amazing.
That's the thing. It's like when we do take a moment, and sometimes we need to be prompted to stop. You know, modern life is so quick. And I guess I realized that that is one of my superpowers, I guess you can call it, is that I have always been very slow, and I've always noticed these little things and kind of almost took it for granted that everyone else did as well, like saw all these things, which I kind of throughout my life realized that wasn't the case, you know. And I have a really lovely story of one of my best friends in Norway. We grew up next door. He lived next door to my cabin, and he's been my kind of photography technician, almost like driving the boat and always accompanying me. And he jokes that I taught him to see and to really feel the land. And he's like, life is just so much more beautiful now, you know, because he used to kind of just, oh yeah, it's just moss, you know. And then I would be like, oh my God, look at that moss. Like, can you see that color? Like, oh my God. And it kind of made me realize like, oh, you don't see that? Really? So I guess that's where that's what I hope with Meditations with Treasures, that it can provide that little pause to experience the magic that is all around us, and then maybe inspire people to notice the moss when you go for a walk, or that little rock, a little pebble that's calling for you to pick it up, and you know, feel the textures. And just so incredible, like there's so much magic around us everywhere. Even if you're in a big city, even a little piece of rubbish on the street could be so beautiful. I mean, the amount of times that I stop and almost pick up a piece of glass or plastic or something because I think it's a crystal or whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. And that's exactly what happened to me as well. It's like you really taught me how to slow down and appreciate and look up close and just really connect with that. So everyone who is listening, I'm highly recommending to go on Silje's Instagram and just experience that. That is truly, truly amazing. And you also hold the moon balance circles. So tell us more how you started the moon ceremonies and why that became a big part of your life, and also what you're bringing into this world.
Yeah, my relationship with the moon became more deep, I think, in 2014. I started doing moon ceremonies many years ago now, just on my own and sometimes with my partner or friends. And it became this beautiful way of firstly connecting with the moon and the astrology, or like the energy that we were in astrologically, but also with my inner wisdom and kind of stopping to check in. Every 2 weeks, there's a full moon and a new moon. So it became this bi-monthly check-in. So on the full moon, I check in with myself to see what is no longer serving me and what I'm ready to let go of. And every new moon, I check in to see, what do I want to call into my life? What do I want to bring in? And then, so it's become this really beautiful anchor in my life, where, because, you know, sometimes things get busy and like we should be checking in with ourselves more often than every 2 weeks. But to have that practice of this deeper check-in has been really, really beautiful. And also to manifest with the moon. I mean, the new moon is a beautiful time to plant seeds of what you want to call in. And also as a woman, to connect with the lunar cycles and my menstruation, which follows the lunar cycles. Most women menstruate on the new moon and ovulate on the full moon, but it can also go the other way around. So if you, so to kind of just connect with that, it was just such a beautiful journey and has allowed me to connect with my inner wisdom in a more deep way. So this summer, or after I had done the Psych-K basic workshop, came back and there was a new moon. I sat there with my partner, we did the new moon ritual, and also obviously I love treasures, so I love to create a sacred space and an altar, like a new moon altar and things like that. So it's all that whole ritual and ceremony aspect to it, which I love. So we were sitting there and we had written our intentions, and then I was just like, whoa, I can balance this with Psych-K. Like I can literally integrate these intentions into my subconscious mind so that my subconscious actually believes that it's possible. Like I can supercharge my new moon intentions. And I did. And I was like, holy shit, this is incredible. Like it's already powerful with the moon, but now it's like a double whammy. And that's when the kind of the seed was sprouting from this, and which was born now also in lockdown. The new moon, the moon balance circles, which are so I hold them every new and full moon online, but I will also be holding them in person once in a while in my home in Winchester. But also I'm hoping to be able to kind of bring them to different places as well, where we connect with the energy of that moon in terms of the astrology. We have some singing. Well, you don't have to sing if you don't want to, but it's kind of connecting to that part of ourselves and calling in the wisdom of the land. And then I guide you on an inner landscape journey, as I call it. So I write a visual guided meditation that brings you deep into your inner landscape, into your subconscious, to receive your inner wisdom. So I write a new one for every new moon, which is also what you experience in the Meditations with Treasure event. And then we write our intentions. And there's a sharing circle for anyone who wants to share. They're quite small, intimate groups. So anyone who wants to share anything that they discovered or whatever they're going through at the time. I really believe in healing and community. And it's a completely safe space where, you know, there's no opinions or like no one is commenting on what you're sharing. It's just a space to be held and heard, and also to hold other people. And then we do collective Psych-K. So we call in our highest self and balance whatever our highest self wants to, the intention that our highest self wants to set for us. And we also supercharge our intention. So on the new moon, there's a collective balance our goal statement that I create around bringing in what we're wanting and releasing what we're ready to release in terms of the full moon. And then every person gets an individual Psych-K as well, which I do after the circle, where each person chooses one intention from their list, which I integrate with distant Psych-K after. So it's a really fully packed ceremony.
Super charged package, combining all of those things. Yeah, that is really, really awesome. And what would you say, what were the 3 biggest mindset shifts that made the biggest impact in your personal life or in creating the inner landscape?
I think the first one has to be practicing radical self-kindness.
Mm-hmm.
That is the biggest thing for me. The second thing would be to allow myself all the rest that I need without any guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And working and being in my day in my own way. So, in terms of running a business, like really following my own rhythm and structuring my day in a way that works for me, regardless of like what society tells us, or you have to hustle or you have to work hard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't follow any of that. I completely just do it the way that it feels right for me. And the third one would be to be completely uncompromisingly true to myself and fully following and trusting my intuition and instinct with every decision that I make. And like I said, in terms of the business, really looking to myself to figure out what's right for me, not looking outside of myself. And if I find that I am overthinking something, or that my decision has gone up to my mind, if that makes sense, I just
Mm-hmm.
leave it. I just leave it and I come back to it when I'm back in my body. And if I sense that I'm overthinking something or analyzing something with my mind, I know that I've missed my instinct, which happens, but then I just leave it and come back to it when I'm back in myself. So that's probably the biggest one.
Mm. So, what's next for you? What are you working towards today?
Well, I guess just continuing to share the work that I've started releasing in terms of the circles. I'm also planning some really exciting courses. There is one coming quite soon around how to create sacred space and to create lunar altars. And there are other courses, small online courses coming up around really accessing your own intuition and all the things that we've talked about. There will be different courses and also working with Psych-K in those courses. And another really exciting thing on the horizon, which hopefully will be up and running next summer. Obviously, the corona crisis and everything is affecting this a little bit in terms of the preparation, but I really want to start hosting retreats in Norway at my cabin. And so, which will be a really beautiful space for you to come and connect with your inner wisdom, connect with the wisdom of the land, really explore this very special landscape. There will be lots of ritual and ceremony and guided meditations, as well as Psych-K, and really like a deep dive into your own inner landscape and exploring everything that comes with that. And my kind of long-term dream and goal is to create a beautiful home by the sea, very likely in Norway, but I'm open to other places as well, where me and my partner will both have our artist studios, as well as a beautiful ceremonial kind of space to hold rituals and guest accommodation to have retreats and artist residencies. So that's kind of the big dream where it's all going to come together.
Mm. And I already told you this, but whenever you launch the retreat in Norway, I'm there on the VIP list, whether you want it or not.
I
I'm
can't
there,
wait to have you.
yeah, and I cannot wait for that to happen, because the work that you do is really amazing. It really brings me back those memories as I was a little girl and really appreciating the nature and just like stopping and recognizing those little bits that brings us so much joy in this modern world. So I can't wait for that.
I'm so happy to hear that. I think that's the you just tapped into a really important part of that, and it's like tapping into our own innocence which is so, so important and magical. So I can't wait to explore that space with you.
If any of our listeners would like to connect with you, where can they do that?
They can find me on Instagram at the.inner.landscape, and they can find me on my website, theinnerlandscape.life. And also, if you would like to attend one of the moon balance circles, the next one will be the new moon in Cancer on the 20th of July, and the following one on the 3rd of August for the full moon in Aquarius. So they run every new and full moon, as well as I have other events like my meditations with treasures, as well as a returning to calm circle and for removing or transforming stress. So they kind of happen once in a while. So if you want to be in the loop around the events that I follow, you can also sign up for my newsletter to receive the notification of when they are coming. And also, if you would be curious to explore your inner landscape with me in a one-to-one session, I would love to offer all the listeners of the Mindset School podcast a 25% discount on the 2-hour sessions until the 9th of September. And if you would like to claim that, you just use the code MINDSET in capital letters, MINDSET, when you check out.
I'll put all of those links into the show notes, so any of you listening can just simply go, click, connect, and learn more about Silje, get to know the meditations with treasures, experience some of that, and join to the moon balance circles, and just to connect with Silje. And if you want to explore the inner landscape, you can do that with her guidance. Silje, I have learned so much today from you, and I appreciate you for doing the work that you do and really being uniquely yourself and being really recognizing that inner wisdom and just really following it, and now teaching others how to do that, because I feel that there is no right or wrong way to live. There is only a unique way to live, and we have to find that. It's our responsibility to figure this out and to find the right teachers who you can connect with and who can help you to do that. So I am hopeful that whoever have listened to this episode, they can really feel that connection with you and to join in on the inner landscape journey with you.
Thank you so much, Inga. It's been such a pleasure to be here and to explore these topics with you. Thank you so much for having me.
If you loved this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. If you are a social creature, take a screenshot of this podcast, include one insight you learned from this episode, and tag me at Inga Pakal. I cannot wait to see your insights. Also, you might want to check out my free audio guide, How to Get Unstuck, which also includes a workbook. You'll learn 3 simple strategies to generate clarity, regain direction, and feel energized. Simply visit ingapakalniskite.com or click the link in the show notes. Once again, thank you so much for listening, and I'll speak to you next week. Bye now.